of you for today's Sitara seminar. We are honored to have Raghunath Swami as our speaker for today. Raghunath Swami is a distinguished spiritual leader, author, community builder, activist, teacher, and humanitarian. He's been among the Bhakti tradition for over 50 years and has guided numerous acclaimed social initiatives. He's delivered talk at esteemed institutions such as NASDAQ, Harvard, MIT, Princeton, the UK Parliament, the BBC, and many more. In 2003, Raghunath Swami founded the Govardhan Eco Village in Palghar, Maharashtra, a model of sustainable living that has received numerous awards and recognition from UNESCO, UNEP, and others. Under his visionary leadership, the Govardhan Eco Village has transformed the lives of many through its rural development program. This initiative has educated and empowered tribal communities in areas of organic farming, water resource management, non-farm enterprises, women empowerment, and youth skill development. What has started with just 5 tribal villages has now expanded over 111 families across more than 50 villages. In today's talk, Raghunath Swami will delve into the crucial link between ecological balance and social welfare. Drawing from his vast experience and transformative leadership in developing Eco Village, he will demonstrate how blending traditional wisdom with innovative technologies can cultivate sustainable communities. He will also shed light on the Eco Village's significant impact on local communities, focusing on educational initiatives and humanitarian projects that promote self-sufficiency and well-being. Today, Raghunath Swami is also accompanied by Sanat Kumar Das, the Director of the Rural Development Wing at GEV. Please welcome Raghunath Swami with a loud round of applause. Also, a gentle reminder to please put your phones on silent or switch off so that we can have a smooth session. Thank you. Thank you so much, Raghunath Swami, for gracing us today.
Jnananjana chalakaya chakshuru militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swadam Rupa Kadamanyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Judhapatakalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatham Sahakana Raghunathan Vidam Tvam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Charitam Gadevam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskare Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudevi
नहीं होता है कवर होता है एवरी सैटरडे करते हैं
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hari, Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari. I am sincerely grateful, honored, and very happy to be with all of you at this very historic, esteemed educational institute, IIT. Special gratitude to Professor Anand Rao, Professor Ganesh Ramakrishna, for so kindly extending invitation for me. And my special gratitude to each and every one of you for opening your minds and hearts and dedicating this precious time to be here this evening. I was asked to speak about environmental harmony and social responsibility, especially in the context of our project, the Govardhan Eco-Village, and its purpose and its goals. Whatever we build upon is dependent on the integrity of the foundation which supports it. This building, quite wonderful. But few people who come here think about the foundation, because it's not seen with our senses. But yet everything that we do see and experience is dependent for its survival on that foundation. Among those of you who may be structural engineers, how much effort goes into developing the foundation of a building? But when we're speaking of humanity and all living beings, the foundation that supports all other foundations, in fact, the foundation that supports all life that exists here, is Mother Earth. Every step we take, even the airplanes that go into the sky, they're dependent on a runway, or a rocket ship is dependent on a launching pad. Everything is dependent for support on Mother Earth. In structural engineering, if we're thinking nobody will see the foundation, so I shouldn't put so much attention on it, that is unsustainable, and in fact it's ignorant and it's dangerous. In the same way, if we're speaking of our own well-being and the well-being of others, it cannot be separated from our attention on the well-being of Mother Earth, the environment. In fact, we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in a few days it will be Janmashtami, Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth, approached Lord Brahma, who is the father and creator of this particular universe, in a secondary role. And she was crying because Mother Earth, in a sense, is the mother of everyone that lives in all species of life. Because all the elements of our bodies and our senses and everything we require to sustain at every moment are gifts of the earth. And in this sense, throughout the world, we call the earth Mother Earth. Because actually, she is our mother. She's the mother of mothers. She was feeling great compassion. Because actually, the earth personified, whether we take this to be historic or allegorical, the message is crucial. She was seeing so much greed, so much arrogance, so much ignorance, that individuals and kingdoms and rulers were fighting over who was the proprietor of her body without considering her. And how, for temporary goals, so much exploitation of the natural resources of Mother Earth. There's a well-known verse in the 7th canto of the Bhagavad Purana, where Prahlad, at the time he was a 5-year-old child, but he was completely enlightened with spiritual knowledge of Sanatana Dharma. He described an observation which really should be a foundational principle in which every responsible human being, especially leaders, make our decisions. He said, without being informed with truth, then the solutions to our problems, in time, that solution becomes a bigger problem than the original problem. And for this reason, the Supreme Absolute Truth descends into this world to keep reminding us who we are and what is our true well-being. We are so much obsessed due to short-sightedness. And this short-sightedness in Sanskrit is avidya. It's ignorance. From a dharmic perspective, what does ignorance mean? In the world today, nobody who is at IIT, or to speak of a graduate of IIT, is called ignorant. It's usually somebody who can't write, who can't read. They're considered ignorant. But actually, from a dharmic perspective, it has nothing to do with the data that we store in our brains as far as education. Ignorance is we don't understand really who we are. We don't really understand who others are. And we don't understand in a long-term perspective of what's favorable to our lives. So unfortunately, due to ignorance, people who are the most educated, who has the most sophisticated forms of education, are creating technologies, ways of life, It's exploiting our Mother Earth, polluting the air that we all breathe, creating the types of chemicals that cause disease, death, and unsafe sustainability, even in the food that we eat. What to speak of the water that nourishes us and gives us life. And what to speak of how we honor and respect one another on the basis of higher principles than our own superficial conceptions of our identity. Environmental harmony and social responsibility is very much to be built, according to Bhagavad Gita in our scriptures, on the foundation of relationships. What is the relationship of the body, the mind, and the true self, the jiva? In the Bhagavad Gita, which is 700 verses of truth, the first principle that is described is what is our identity. As the embodied soul is passing through childhood, youth, and old age, similarly, at the time of death, that spirit, that jiva, that soul, the true you and me, will enter into another body. Nahamyate hanyamane sarite. For the soul there is no death. It's unborn and eternal. But we're living within this body. Why is there greed? And why from that greed is there so much disrespect and exploitation, not only to other people and other species, but to Mother Nature herself? Because we've forgotten who we are and what is actually the real happiness that we're seeking. From a spiritual perspective, when we understand what makes me happy, in truth, the testimony is that we will live for other people's happiness. If you're not living for other people, and this has been the principle taught by all the great spiritual leaders throughout history of the entire world. We're all children of the same source. What is Dharma? There are so many ideas. Some people call it religion, occupation, nature. Srimad Bhagavatam describes Savai Punsangpura Dharma Vitapapira Mokshati. Avaitiki apratihata yagatma suprasidati. Dharma is what makes us happy. But what actually makes us happy? The supreme Dharma is that which brings about a love that is expressed through seva, or service, to the supreme truth, to God. We may call Ram or Krishna. Such loving service egoism, unmotivated by the tendency to exploit, and uninterrupted by circumstances, that loving service will completely satisfy the true self. The same principle in how we actually are concerned and activated by that concern to the well-being of others. That is what is truly our well-being. It's due to disconnect from our own nature and our own real self-interest that we don't have a proper relationship with others. The idea of karuna, or compassion, is the basic principle of Dharma. Loving service is expressed through compassion. So if somebody comes to me who's smoking many cigarettes and addicted to cigarettes and says, please give me money for cigarettes, I'm suffering terribly. If I feel for that person and do that, that could be interpreted as a type of compassion. But from a Dharma perspective, in the name of being kind, we're perpetuating that person's suffering. Momentarily, temporarily, there's happiness. In this sense, if we're really concerned with the self-interest of our family and our loved ones, then we do need to feel a concern for the well-being of the whole of humanity and nature. My beloved Guru, Srila Prabhupada, he was teaching this idea of Sanatana Dharma. Everyone is looking for happiness, but we cannot, the hand cannot find happiness trying to chew food between its fingers. The hand needs to put the food in the mouth, and then the mouth has to chew it. And then if the food just stays there in the mouth and it keeps chewing it, it's not going to be really happy. The mouth has to cooperate with other mechanisms of the body, and it has to be swallowed by the throat, and then it has to go into the stomach. And then it's distributed to the whole body. So real happiness is not a selfish, isolated thing. Real happiness is based on relationship. Just within our own bodies. There are so many organs, senses, and functions. And a healthy body is one where all these different components have a favorable, respectful relationship with one another. Seldom do we think about that. Sometimes when you go to a doctor, he'll help you remember that. But it is a reality. And our own little body is allegorical and symbolic of the whole creation. And this is the idea of karuna and seva. The idea of compassion toward others is what's healthy for me. And what's healthy for me actually will inspire me and empower me towards seva, compassion to others. So our beloved Guru Srila Prabhupada is taking this message of Bhagavad Gita and trying to present it to the world in such a way that we can become enlightened. And one of his foundational principles was teaching people how to live in harmony with the environment. Because everything else is disconnected, even if it's philosophically precise. Because we're all dependent on the environment. It's very interesting. When I first came to India, I was 19 years old. And I was looking for truth. I was born and raised in the United States of America. I never met a person from India until I reached the border of India. In those days, there was a lot of isolation. What I found here, and why from the moment I came into India, and more as I was studying the culture and the richness, is Mother India is giving the wisdom, the vision, and the culture in which we can have a deep understanding of relationships. Yoga is harmony. Harmony is harmonizing the relationship between the body, the mind, and our true self. Harmonizing our temporary needs and our temporary wants with the true well-being of our true self. Harmonizing through responsible living. How we're making a positive difference in a sustainable way to humanity, to all living beings, and to the foundational motherly principle of everyone, or nature. And I saw that when I met my Guru Srila Prabhupada, he was translating Bhagavad Gita in Upanishads and translating Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it became the largest publishing house with the most distribution of Vedic literatures in the history of the world. So much knowledge. But yet, he made an inseparable priority that we teach by an example as far as possible how to cultivate Mother Earth when we're growing food in such a way that we are replenishing her health rather than exploiting. There's an example. He had about 100 temples all over the world, tens of thousands of followers, and he was in a countryside, Mayapur town in Bengal, and he was surrounded by renounced scholarly leaders. And he pointed and said, "Cannot you see?" And everyone was looking out into a field. There was nothing to know there. It was just a field. And he rose his voice. "Cannot you see?" They didn't know what they're supposed to see. And he challenged very strongly. "Do you not see? What is wrong with you? What type of leaders are you?" They were bewildered. So he left them. They walked into the field, and there was a tap. And there was water dripping from it. And he secured the tap so that the water would not be dripped. What type of leaders are you if you are not honoring the gifts of God that are coming through the earth? We're all dependent, and we're all interrelated. Anything that is disconnected, the way the universe is created, according to spiritual science and technology, everything and everyone affects everything and everyone else. My guru would say, with all the properties and all of the accomplishments that we have, he said, I would trade it all if I could get one person to turn toward Krishna. How did that impact me when I heard this? That means at every moment, how we're affecting other people, how we're concerned with other people. That is affecting the whole world. And when we're trying to do very big things, but we're not concerned with the small things, then we're disconnected. And similarly, if we're trying to deal with small things, but it's not in harmony with what's best for the big things, then we're disconnected. So essentially what I'm speaking about is spiritual values. Whatever knowledge, whether it's philosophy or scriptural knowledge or academic knowledge or technological scientific knowledge, its value is according to the character that we are striving to live in harmony with. So he was distributing so many millions of books, but at the same time, he was so concerned when he came to one farm community. There was a lot of money at the time. They were bringing all kinds of very, very delicious foods from other places. He said, no. Give me the weeds that are growing here. If you're not growing anything here, just give me the weeds. As a leader, he was trying to teach us that these small things are so important. Before coming here, I had the great opportunity of being with IIT's Goshala and sing these beautiful cows. Krishna, when he appeared on this earth, he's Lord Narayan, the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. He came to earth by his example, by his love, to teach us what's truly of value. He was taking care of cows. And in fact, when Mother Earth approached Brahma, and then along with Brahma and the Devas, they approached Lord Vishnu, she took the form of a cow. And this is very symbolic too, because a cow is dependent on human compassion for their survival. My Guru Srila Prabhupada, and he's speaking on behalf of all the acharyas, the saints, the sadhus of the history of India. He said the barometer of the spiritual level of any society can be calculated not by the types of buildings, not just by what type of educational institutions, or even by the economy. If we're concerned with going to the root of what will make the world happy, he said the barometer is how happy the cows are. Now what does that mean? From a superficial perspective, what does the cows have to do with everything else going on in this world? But a cow is completely dependent on human compassion for their survival. They're not wild animals. If we learn to be thinking of the happiness of a cow, then our hearts are open to actually be going beyond our egos to think of the happiness, because a cow is a sentient being, and so is a tree, and so is every type of human being and species of life. I know people who invest so much of their time to take care of cows, but they're really arrogant, cruel people to others. That means they don't understand this principle of cow protection. When people understand this, and such a great institution as future leaders of the entire planet are in this college today. When all of our education is built on these foundational principles of character and values, understanding our relationships, today there's so many wars, there's so much greed, there's so much poverty. I was recently in Los Angeles, and people from Beverly Hills, they were telling me how much they live in fear because there's massive homelessness. And these homeless people in desperation are breaking into people's houses. And when I was there, one of their neighbors was killed. Somebody broke into their house and they came to see and they were killed. This is the wealthiest, some of the wealthiest places of the world. still there's such poverty and such suffering. But building a great city needs to be built on great values. So this is the idea of Govardhan Eco-Village. Trying to give, in our own very, very small way, an example of how to really focus our attention on living in harmony and respecting with a grateful heart the gifts of Mother Earth, and trying to share that knowledge and those gifts with the villagers, with the people of the towns and the villages and the cities. Everything has value if we understand its value. Sanat Kumar Prabhu is here. He can explain so many wonderful projects that go around in Eco-Village. But I'll end with just one example, which I consider to be very much an analogy of life itself. Something everyone has in common. Whatever our nationality, whatever our social position, whatever our religion or no religion, we all have to eat. And then after we eat, we know after digestion, there's evacuation. Sometimes we do it on a railway track. Sometimes we do it in a field. But mostly these days we do it with toilets. And the people of the world, do we really care? We flush the toilet. And we don't really think about how we're affecting the world or how it's affecting myself. It's something we just don't like, so we just get rid of it. Few people save it. But actually it has to go somewhere. We think it as waste. And actually everyone's doing it, so there's so much waste. Relationships is not only between people, but it's understanding the relationship between what is of great value and what we, due to misconception and disconnection, we consider waste. And actually, it was a PhD student from IIT here in Mumbai that created this whole system at Govardhan Eco-Village, where through completely natural technologies, in relationship with modern technologies, it can purify the water, and that water actually becomes of great value. Sewage water becomes very usable, environmentally nourishing water. And in many ways, all of our desires and everything we know, it could be exploitative and harmful. But if you understand the process by which everything has a natural value, then the technology, the science, the philosophy we learn, if it's gone gone through this purificatory system of values, what may be exploitative and dangerous can actually be engaged with real compassion, which brings about real self-satisfaction. Govardhan Eco-Village is not just about natural technologies for the environment of the earth, because that is not sustainable unless there's a relationship and purification where we are living in harmony with ourselves and with God and with nature and with each other. Because everything is connected. And when we see it from this perspective, life can be infinitely meaningful. And that meaningfulness is more beautiful than anything that the eyes or the ears can experience in this world. Because God is beautiful. And nature with all changes is inherently beautiful. And we are inherently beautiful. And when we build our lives on a foundation of this type of value, then life truly becomes meaningful. And we can be instruments to help other people's lives become truly meaningful. Thank you very much.
If you have questions, please raise your hands and then we'll pass on the mic.
Namaste, Acharya. I have a very basic question. In the start, you have mentioned about the motherland, and the many concern was there about the polluting. So I just want to know that what are the bottleneck in saving the motherland? What we can do?
The bottleneck is avidya, or ignorance, of what is our relationship with the motherland and what is the relationship we have with all other children of the motherland. Sanatana Dharma is when we take responsibility to actually care about the well-being of others. And when we actually care, then we will make the effort to find out and then to put into practice how we could thus best be of service. bottleneck is selfishness. And arrogance. And dharma. When we take responsibility to rise above our own propensities for selfishness and arrogance. Human life doesn't mean it happens automatically, because we're all conditioned by these conditionings of selfishness and arrogance. It's all around us and it's within us. Tapasya means that we're willing to make our choices in life on a higher principle. Samsadhyat Aditosha. In our tradition, we chant the names of God in a similar way as our sewage refining brings the quality of polluted sewage water. All of the contaminants actually help other things grow. And the end result is the water is clear and transparent. So similarly, by chanting God's names, by associating with people who have these higher values, we become purified. And then with our purified consciousness, which is above the very cheap and spiritually poverty-stricken state of selfishness. From a spiritual perspective, arrogance means spiritual poverty. But yet in today's world, people are really excited about being arrogant because it seems that that's a great accomplishment, something to be arrogant about. But it's spiritual poverty, and when we have this value, then we'll work even harder and strive even harder because we have a much higher and more meaningful purpose. So tapasya is, yes, we have these bottlenecks in our own life, and the whole world is facing these bottlenecks. But individually and collectively, we need to transform arrogance into humility, greed into a very charitable spirit of concern for others. And we all have that power to make that choice. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Any more questions?
Namaste, Chariji. My question is very simple. Why we need happiness? We can live a life without any desire for anything and achieve that one spirit, which is the main soul. So why we are going through happiness and things which make our life more difficult? Because if we want happiness, we have a desire. Why we have a desire? Why can't we live a life without happiness, without anything? Because as I said that we have to help others. What if we are in a world where we are the only one? So is it not possible to be happy in that world? So that's the question.
Happy. To desire happiness is a desire. I believe that's what you're saying. To desire to be beyond happiness is also a desire. Somehow or other, we're all stuck with desires. And it's to pretend that there's no desires, or to pretend that there is a state of desirelessness. You know, we have to cross the bridge to reach that transcendental state. And what Krishna's teaching in Bhagavad Gita, and what all of our great Vedic scriptures are teaching, is to actually be in a state of desireless. Doesn't mean we don't have desires. It means that our desires are liberating, purifying, and expressions of love. If a mother has a little baby and the baby is crying in need, does the mother think, well, I want to be desireless, so let the baby go through its own karma? Higher than desireless on this material level is love. Yes? Love is the deepest, most liberating, and fullest sense of desireless. God is desireless, materially. But why does the Lord come to this world again and again and again to teach us? He's desireless because there's no selfish, arrogant, material desires based in ignorance. But the Lord comes as an activist out of love, out of a desire to help other people be liberated in that love. Was Hanuman desireless? Materially, he was desireless. But still, he was jumping over oceans, and he was lifting mountains, he was fighting wars. He was desireless in the sense that he was not seeking his own arrogant happiness. He was seeking the happiness of Sita and this happiness of Ram. And ultimately, the happiness of Sita and Ram is the happiness of all living beings. But that happiness is not in these temporary experiences of the mind and senses. It's in reconnecting. To desire that is greater than being desireless. And to be desireless is quite impossible for all of us. So rather than trying to be desireless, desire in harmony with Krishna's grace and in harmony with the love of the soul. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Namaskar, Maharaj. In the current world, many people have left their small towns and villages and moved towards city, and they are engrossed in technology. For a common man who is in the middle of his career, it is practically difficult for him to go back to living in harmony with the nature. How such a kind of person who is in the middle of a career, a common man, can contribute or move towards living in harmony with nature and self?
That is the challenge that is upon all of us. how to educate and inspire such people to understand and to appreciate that life in the farms and life in the villages is something sustainable and wonderful. In many ways, in the name of modern progress, society has disempowered the people in the rural communities. And that is unsustainable. And it is our responsibility in the name of God and in the name of Dharma to actually give people the appreciation of how important it really is to live in these rural communities and raise their families and have an income, an economy, and a lifestyle that's truly fulfilling. Many of the people you're speaking about have simply, over generations, forgot the beauty of what God has given them. Overdone Eco Village, which is a really small and we could say an insignificant attempt, but still, even doing something insignificant is infinitely significant if it's done with sincerity. But we have lawyers, PhDs, serving hand to hand with simple farmers and going into the villages with doctors, going to teach, to inspire and share. In such a way that people can really appreciate what they have. Again, it's a disconnect. People have land. But how to actually be happy and prosperous with that land. And that type of leadership is very necessary. Yes, there needs to be people in the cities, and there needs to be people in the towns and in the villages and in the farmlands. And everybody should appreciate each other and help each other to understand the value and the greatness of what we're doing. Because actually we are all connected and dependent ultimately on each other. Does that answer the question? Thank you.
Namaskar, Swamiji. So, here in black. So my question is, you said about God is an activist of love. So we are facing so many conflicts, so much inequalities, environmental degradation, extreme weather events. So if we see our surroundings, so don't you think that we will be unhappy? So how to find peace there? Because finally we are funded by the taxpayers of this country. So many students are here. So how to feel that, how to navigate in there with so much surrounding unhappiness? You get my question?
an answer, you could tell me if I got your question. There was a very great Acharya, a saint, named Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote a particular line that very much addresses how we could deal with all the unhappiness of the world and not be depressed. There is so much unhappiness. There is so much conflict, poverty, mental health issues. If we objectively look at the world, it's really a mess. So one tendency is, I'm just going to deal with what makes me happy and my loved ones happy, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of the world. But that's quite shallow. And the other is, I do have to think about the rest of the world, and therefore I'm going to go into depression, because it's a reality. What can we do about it? We seem helpless. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained, where there's great need, there's a great opportunity to serve. Paradu Kaduki, actually that Professor Ramakrishna told me to speak on this subject, so I'm doing it. Paraduki means when we feel another person's happiness to be my happiness and another person's suffering to be my suffering. So when there's so many people suffering, how can I be happy? Along with that feeling and concern for other people's difficulties, if we are actually activated with sincerity to be the change we want to see in the world, the inner satisfaction of the self is discovered. When we see problems, it gives us an opportunity to help, to serve. And the real happiness of life is not that there's no problems around. The real happiness of life, from a spiritual perspective, is when we appreciate that opportunity to serve and make a difference. Did I understand your question?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful talk and enlightening talk. So, for giving the founding principle for to live with harmony, not only with the environment, but also with all the living entities. So, thank you very much for giving the founding principle to live with harmony, not only with the environment, but also with all living entities. So, my question is, but our modern education does not teach this founding principle. We are systematically getting trained with selfishness, how to greedy. Basically, we are yearning these 6 kinds of pollution in our heart. We are depositing it day by day through the modern educations. So what kind of initiative we can take or introduce to spread this principle of love, so that everybody can take benefit and the whole society can live with harmony, not only with individuals but also with environment. So another earth, also another cow can be happy.
Because of the sound system, I couldn't hear your question so well, but I'll say something anyway. We can make a great difference in the world when we choose to create sangams or communities that are sincerely striving to help to solve these problems in, as you say, a very foundational, essential way. Not solving the problem so it creates bigger problems, but actually going to the root. Many of the greatest accomplishments historically have begun with just a few people who share with each other a commitment to do good for the world, or sometimes to do bad for the world. Some of the most destructive events of history began with just a few people who were evil coming together to spread their message. And some of the most glorious, wonderful victories of the world for the benefit of humanity began with just a few people communicating with one another with a commitment to really make the world a better place. We need to form these communities where we go deeper and deeper in our understanding of what is true Sanatana Dharma. What is the gifts that have been entrusted to us to receive and to share with the world? There's an example. Is a knife good or bad? If a knife is in the hands of a thief, he'll use it to cut someone's throat and steal whatever they have for himself. So then the knife is bad. The same knife, if it is in the hands of a surgeon, it will save a person's life. Knowledge, science, fame, skills, everything in this world is like that knife. What makes it good or bad is the values of the person who's holding it. And we need communities to encourage and empower each other to actually use the wonderful gifts, to develop those gifts more and more and more and more for a higher purpose. Bhagavad Gita. Krishna told Arjuna to fight. Now on the other side, Duryodhana was also fighting. So is fighting good or bad? For Duryodhana, fighting was bad, because he was doing it in a selfish way to exploit others. He was envious. But for Arjuna to fight was good, because he was doing it to liberate the innocent. But when we have a good purpose, we should be even more enthusiastic to develop our skills. if we have love, an intent to love God in our heart, and we want to express it through science and technology, then we will go deeper and deeper into that science and technology so that we can use it more and more and more for the well-being of others. If we're a farmer, we'll go deeper and deeper to understand the best we can to utilize every inch of our land for the prosperity of my family and for the world. Anything we do good in one place, it's interconnected, it's good for the world. So the idea of Sanatana Dharma is not this type of renunciation where we just give up things because they're material, but to spiritualize everything and have a very dynamic and exciting purpose in life to develop those things. And what's so helpful is we have communities of devotees or communities of like-minded people who are really striving together to make a difference. No, I didn't hear your question. That's somehow or other that
perfect answers.
it came from my heart.
We can just take one or two quick questions because we need to end soon.
Swamiji, thank you very much. So partly I got the answer to the question that I was thinking of, but I'll still repeat my question so that I can get more understanding of this. So my question is, we are stuck into this bad bargain already because of our choices. So given the circumstances that we have, how do we make best use of that bad bargain? Understanding that we are stuck in pollution, stuck with the quarrel among people and so on. But how as an individual I'll work towards improving the situation? Thank you.
Make best use of a bad bargain. It begins with a desire. And that desire is generally inspired by being in the company of good people. And then there is the quest for knowledge. The quest for knowledge is, how could I have the resources to be the best I can be, to make a positive difference? My guru's guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he was living in Calcutta at the time, and this was during the British regime. This was in the 1920s in Calcutta. And he just had a few followers, and he sent them to spread this message of Lord Chaitanya, of Bhagavad Gita. And sometimes they go out and nobody wanted to hear. And they come back really disappointed. And our Param Guru was so excited. How many people came? They said nobody. But did you try? They said yes. He said, if nobody comes to your lecture, then you should have full enthusiasm to preach to the four walls. Because God in your heart is hearing. And yes, it seems like any efforts we may make in a world where there's so much pollution of the earth, and pollution of the water, and pollution of the air, and it's all an extension of pollution of the human mind. true spiritual practice, by chanting God's holy names, by being with saintly people, if we're striving sincerely to purify my own mind, and striving to help others understand the importance of this. If we reach 1 person or 10 million people, our life has extraordinary meaning and purpose. And we could actually be instruments of doing wonderful things. If we're hopeless about a situation, then the situation is hopeless. But even in appearance, where it's so much beyond me, and it seems so hopeless, if I have hope, and I'm sincerely striving to make myself the best I can be, and among each other we're striving to help each other to be the best that they can be, that's where the hope of the whole world is. And that hope is entrusted to each of us. Actually, today is a very special day for some of us. It's according to the Vedic calendar. In 1965, on this day, we're celebrating. That's where our Guru Maharaj, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he performed something that is so important to our lives. In 1922, he was given an instruction by his Guru to take the message of Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavad Gita Sanatana Dharma to the whole world in the English language. But it seems so hopeless. 43 years later, in 1965, he had 40 rupees, and he didn't know a single person outside of India. And in Calcutta, at the King George Dockyards, he boarded a cargo ship where he was given a free passage. 38 days at sea to New York City. He had no money that was exchangeable. He didn't know anyone. While he was traveling over the Arabian Sea, he had 2 heart attacks. He was almost 70 years old. It seemed so hopeless. But yet, he was just praying to Krishna. My Lord, just let me be an instrument of your grace. Let me just repeat your words. Let me give your message. And today there's tens of millions of devotees who've been transformed. So in certain ways, today represents for the community that I'm living with, it represents a day very practical and real, where an apparently hopeless situation is filled with hope. Radhe Shamprabhu, would you like to speak something? Radhe Shamprabhu has masters degree from IIT. And I'm sorry I'm speaking to you. I went to 1 semester of a college, and then I decided to come to India to look for truth and God. And I'm still here. So I'm not as gifted as so many of you. But whoever we are and whatever we have, there's hope that we can make a difference. Radhe Shamprabhu and Sanat Kumar Prabhu, both of you could give a very small message before we end.
like a small candle in front of the sun. He has been a master last 30 years. I have been in his training. And I'm just speaking a few words because he ordered me to speak. Otherwise I don't feel any qualification anymore. So I heard one very interesting prayer which goes like this. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous become tranquil. May the tranquil become free. And may those who are free set others free. You all have heard the famous saying, Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Ninamaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Pashyantu Dukkha Bhavantu. So, the Vedic statement is that we should desire that all living beings who are all part and parcels of God, by the true nature they are very happy. They are always cheerful. But they have become covered over by a mind which has got some impurities. Lord Krishna finally says there are three of them: lust, anger and greed. So Srila Prabhupada called the same three things with three other names. He said, lust means to catch, anger means to beat, and greed means to loot. Like you all know, Ravana was trying to catch somebody's hand and he got destroyed. He was trying to catch the hand of another man's wife. Duryodhana was trying to loot another man's property. Similarly, somebody is angry, they try to beat others. So today the world is filled with great danger all around it. In Hamas and Palestine, or in Russia and Ukraine, and they are finding in Bangladesh, and many other parts of the world. There's a great crisis in UK, big uproar all around, as one of them was saying about the situation of the world around it. Fundamentally, this tendency to catch, beat and loot are the impurities in our mind. And when the mind is cleansed of these impurities, we will again become very truly cheerful. Imagine when we came to this hall, say somebody came with the stinking socks. The person is not bad, his socks is bad. Similarly, every spirit soul is a part and parcel of God, is potentially divine. So every one of you sitting here, you are all very divine children of God, and there is not even an iota of any impurity in you. But the impurity is around you, that is enveloping you like a mind. And we should be willing to get this mind purified, trained, uplifted. Just like a mad elephant can be trained to become a trained elephant. Your flood can do no good. The flood can only carry away the cattle and kill the people. But if you have a dam, the same water in the flood can be utilized very constructively. So we want our mind to be like a flood or like a dam. Yeah. Which one has energy? Flood or the dam? Both have energy. Dam has kinetic, dam has potential energy. The flood has destructive energy. Isn't it? Similarly, we want our mind to be like a mad elephant or a trained elephant. So if you want to be like a trained elephant, then we have to find out a way for purification. So when Swamiji, this was Radhanath Swami, he came to India, he was actually in search of the truth. And then after going to various places, he found in Vrindavan the sweet nature of the devotion of the people in Vrindavan, and the service attitude, and the love for God, and the constantly chanting the names of God. These are things that deeply touched his heart. And that's why he met his spiritual master, his divine grace, his Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And although he was only a 19-year-old boy, he came with a heart full of devotion and commitment. It exactly matched his heart. Just like many of you today, you asked the questions where I could clearly see that you have a very good heart, a kind heart, a compassionate heart, a heart that is eager for finding out a way to do good to the world around you. He also had a heart like that. And he met the right person, and then the result was he took to the chanting of the holy name. So, last more than 50 years he has been chanting this mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Man means the mind, Tra means freedom. Mantra means which gives freedom to your mind. Freedom from what? Freedom from these impurities which I told you. So, your mind minus impurities is a pure mind. Just like a computer has 100 bugs. Even if you remove 20 bugs today, tomorrow you will start from 21st bug. And tomorrow you clear 130 bugs, you start from 51th bug. All 100 bugs are gone, your program runs very smoothly. Similarly, your mind also. The more the bugs you remove, the more your mind will function very smoothly. You will be happy and you will make the people around you happy also. So, my Guru Maharaj is known for his politeness and humility and tolerance and patience, and he shelters thousands and thousands of people in yatras when they go. About 10 to 15,000 people come for yatras. Across the globe, he touches the lives of lakhs of people in India and abroad. And we were actually nourished and we flourished by the kind of sound vibration that we heard from him. So it was very nice for us to have him here today. And especially all of you very intelligent boys and girls here in IIT. It's a very nice opportunity that you got to hear such a nice thing. He wrote one very adventurous book which is very thrilling to the minds of young people like you. The name of the book is Journey Home. And there is a second sequel book which is called Journey Within. So these are masterpiece works and they are one of the bestsellers. You can figure out from the Google, Journey Home. And it's on one hand it's a very adventurous book. On the other hand, it also gives you direction in life. So thank you much for the opportunity. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Sir, actually we are already overshot time, so maybe a minute or so, and we would like to close the program for this.
I'll just quickly speak as Maharaj was mentioning that Swami Prabhupada went to US, and then along with the temples he also established the farm projects. And the first farm project he started around 1967 in West Virginia, Tamil. And main intention of those starting the farm projects was how a man can have a good philosophy in his life as well as eco-friendly lifestyles. And that's how ISKCON has farm communities all over the world, and we are also trying to do something in that regard. And then just one example, like farm projects, what comes to your mind first is agriculture. Okay. And as we were saying that God has created such a variety and it needs to be preserved, but what happened is in agriculture sector people went in increasing the yield at certain time. But especially after Corona, what you think is the most needed thing is the nutrition. And you see that how much biodiversity was there once few centuries ago. Only in India, let's say rice, because we are staying in a heavy rainfall area. How many varieties of the rice only in India had? Any guess? Any figure that comes to your mind? 15, 20 is too less. If India had 2 lakhs varieties of rice, that was only in India, and you can think of any other South Asian countries and all that. And all those varieties of rice had got lots of nutritional values. Some could come in a very adverse condition, very less water. Even the bottle is flooded 2 meters for 1 month, still the rice will grow. So nature has provided all those things, which if you live in harmony with that, we'll be able to keep our environment intact, our health intact, and our consciousness also intact. And that's the exact purpose of Ecological village, where we are trying to do something in those fields. Because of the time, we will not be able to speak more, but do visit anytime if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and my apologies for cutting you off because of the shortage of time. On behalf of Sitara, this is my privilege to thank Swamiji to be here. I would also like to thank Professor Ganesh and Aarti Ganesh for arranging to bring the speaker to this institute and enabling organization of this program. I would also like to thank Shraddha Pawan and all the volunteers who have worked for all the different elements of this. And then, as Sitara's tradition, so we have this khadi scarf from Magan Sangrahalaya Vardha. So we typically felicitate all the speakers who come to Sitara with this token of appreciation. I'm not sure whether it fits within your norms, but I would like to present it to you anyway. Thank you so much for being here. I think it was good to see the hall full, and I'm sure that although we got to hear about so many things, so many topics related to sustainability, related to how we can be meaningful in this chaotic world, there would be more questions in many people rather than what answers we got today. Depending on Swamiji's availability, informal discussion can continue for some time. But I would like to close the formal program because typically we close these seminar sessions at 7. So thank you so much for being here, and apologies to cut off the nice interaction that was going on.
Just 1 minute. So we have some cookies that Swamiji